Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, just purchased over 5 million shares of UnitedHealth Group, ticker symbol UNH. That is a stake valued at $1.57 billion. And it could also signal a stamp of approval from one of the best investors of all time. And if you're wondering, the old guy still moves markets. After news of the position came out, UNH stock is now up over 8% after hours. And if you've been following this company, their stock cratered over the past few months, down 54% since April. And this is from a decline of earnings in fiscal 2025, but also looming threats around an investigation of their Medicare Advantage business. On my personal stock watch list, UnitedHealth Group is rocketed to the top. They were down 39% from their 200-day price average, and the company was trading at historically low valuation metrics. The PE over the trailing 12 months was only 11, and the dividend yield was one of its highest ever at 3.26%. That's for a company which has historically had over 10% annual dividend growth. So today I'm going to explain why Warren Buffett may be buying UNH stock, theorize whether this was him or an investment manager at his company, and to give my thoughts about whether this may have just been a starter position for the company, as those 5 million shares were as of June 30th, which was the disclosure date, and UNH stock actually fell another 23% since then. So if they thought the company was a good buy then, and especially if Warren Buffett was involved, they might have been buying even more since. If they do actually like the company, then UNH might be one of these whale investments they could make. It has a $245 billion market cap, and Berkshire Hathaway has over $347 billion of cash and short-term investments. And if we do get rate cuts over the coming year, then those treasury bills Buffett's been buying will become less and less attractive. UNH may have been a large and attractive equity they could have gone into. So with that said, I'll roll the intro and jump into this UNH stock analysis. My name is Zach, this is Dividend Data, and you should leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video. Throughout, I will be using dividenddata.com, which in my opinion is the best stock research tool you can buy. We just put out a massive update increasing our stocks available to research from 8,000 to over 80,000 options, including international stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. So as an example, now you can get a custom view on ETFs like SCHD as an example, and international stocks like LVMH. This has long been a top requested feature, and it's only part of a massive update we just rolled out, and the community's really been loving it so far. And we have a few more huge updates coming out that include Secret Project 1 and Secret Project 2, so get excited. Oh, and by the way, all of this is available at dividenddata.com. The link is in the description and pinned comment of the video. So as I mentioned, UNH stock has sold off a ton. It's rocketed to the top of my watch list, and it's actually one of the most searched stocks now on dividenddata.com. As you can see, it has rocketed into the top 10, and UNH has long been a favorite stock among dividend growth investors, and that's because since they started doing their quarterly dividend in 2010, this company has just been increasing year after year after year. The 10-year compound annual growth rate of the dividend is 16%, the 3-year CAGR is 10.2%, and the payout ratio is pretty sustainable too. Based on free cash flow over their trailing 12 months, they have a 36% free cash flow payout ratio, and in prior years, this has been in the 20s. The same is true with net income. That was 52% last year, but this usually is in the 30% range. And we're actually seeing a decline in most metrics during fiscal 2025 for UNH, so this payout ratio will likely go up. But I would not say the company is at risk of a dividend cut, at least financially speaking. And if we use the stock screener in the AI analyst on dividenddata.com, and we say something like you want to find US stocks with a 5-year dividend growth rate of greater than 10% and a current yield of at least 1%, UNH is at the top of that list. Of large cap companies, UNH is the highest yield, high dividend growth stock. Oh, and by the way, you can screen by hundreds of different financial options here. So I added percent change from 52-week high, and I want to see the largest drawdowns or percent decreases. And by that metric, UNH is right at the top. It's down over 55% from its 52-week high. So this is definitely one of the most high quality dividend growth stocks that has sold off a ton in 2025. And on a long-term basis, this has been a great compounder in the stock market. As you can see, their earnings per share have grown significantly over the long term. and the stock price has largely followed suit. However, they are seeing a drop in earnings in 2025, and they've had a CEO change, plus this looming investigation around their Medicare Advantage business. So there definitely is risk. As an example, analysts are projecting earnings per share to decline by 40% in fiscal 2025. That would give it a forward P ratio of 16.5. Analysts are then projecting their double-digit earnings growth in the years beyond, giving a P ratio based on 2029 earnings of 9, which is kind of insane for a reliable grower like UNH. As we look at the key metrics for UNH stock, everything kind of grows. Revenue has seen a 10-year compound annual growth rate of 12.37%. And I mean, these charts are just kind of beautiful, consistent growth. Net income per share has grown at a 10-year CAGR of 10.37%. Free cash flow per share has grown at a 10-year CAGR of 12.61%. And the company has a strong balance sheet with growing shareholder equity. However, they do have a decent amount of debt with $47 billion of net debt. I would not say that's crazy leverage, though, as they generate $20 billion a year in free cash flow as of fiscal 2024. So this company really is a cash cow. And this drawdown in UNH stock has potentially created a once-in-a-generation buying opportunity for the stock, at least in terms of dividend yield, is now trading at the highest dividend yield ever for the company. It had never even seen a 2% yield, let alone 3 or 3.3 or 3.7. So if they can reclaim their dividend growth of the past, then this is definitely an attractive entry point. And if you're wondering, UNH has been one of the best total returns in the stock market. Since 1990, the stock has had a total return of 92,650%. That's after dropping over 50%. In fact, that total return peaked at one point well over 200,000%. And the total return's only negative a little bit over the past 5 years, despite falling off a cliff. Now, the company was much, much smaller back in 1990. But if we just go back to 2010, the stock has had a 940% total return since then, which is 16.2% annually, beating the market even after selling off 50%. So financially speaking, this is probably a very good entry point for UNH stock, but there are a lot of risks around the stock right now, including their investigation, and I'm not an expert on that. I haven't done a ton of research, but if you have been buying UNH stock, which I know many people in our investing community have been, then it can only be good news that Berkshire Hathaway has been buying it as well. That Warren Buffett stamp of approval usually does wonders for a company. And you know how I mentioned it was up 8% after hours? That's now up to 9.2% after hours. That's now up to 9.2% after hours. But I will say this, I don't know if Warren Buffett's the one actually guiding this decision. Not only is he set to retire as CEO later this year, but this is only a $1.57 billion buy. Now I know $1.5 billion, oh no, that seems like a lot of money. But at the scale of Berkshire Hathaway, it's really not that much. This doesn't even crack a top 20 spot in their public stock portfolio. And Warren Buffett for a while has controlled the largest chunk of that portfolio. And typically his buys are in the tens of billions. As an example, when he was buying Chevron, that's now up to $17.4 billion. And when he was buying Occidental Petroleum, that's now up to $11.1 billion. And the more recent buy of Chubb Limited, that was $7 billion. It's very likely that this $1.5 billion was actually one of his investment managers, Todd or Ted. For a long time, they've been managing a lot of these smaller positions in and out, whether that's something like Domino's Pizza, or even larger ones like Visa, MasterCard, Amazon. So we probably won't know until their next disclosure and whether or not they buy way more UNH stock, whether this was actually Warren Buffett or even the next CEO, Greg Abel. Because if they really do like UNH stock, then $1.5 billion, they might as well be buying 20 or 30 or 40 or $50 billion worth, especially since the stock sold off another 20% since the end of June. Let me know in the comments whether you've been buying UNH stock and whether or not you'll be buying more now that you know that Berkshire Hathaway is investing in the company. With that said, don't take anything I said in this video as financial advice. You should be sure to do your own research before making any investing decisions. I'm just sharing my thoughts around the news. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.